Hey everyone, I'll give you guys just a few minutes to jump on. We're going to talk about this recall process. I didn't record the media thing, so I forgot. So I'm going to go ahead and talk to the community because, of course, your guys' input is what matters and why we're at where we're at. So, with that being said, on January the 31st, we filed a request that Mayor Steinberg, hang on one second. Oh, those are really pretty. Okay, go ahead. And so we requested that Darrell Steinberg resign after Tuesday's events. What folks need to know is that on Tuesday, the media reported that we lost 2 people, when in fact we lost 4 people. And we also, since this time, have lost a total of 6 people. That's here in Sacramento County. So statewide, Darrell Steinberg is appointed under Gavin Newsom as the the chair of the statewide homeless task force. Across the state, this storm ravished this entire community. I was receiving phone calls all night long here in Sacramento from camp leads, from people who were scared, people needing, supplies, asking me what to do. It was really seriously a helpless feeling. Probably 150 calls Tuesday night. Again, telling me that their tents were ripping around them, that they were soaking wet. I had folks tell me that they weren't sure that they were going to make it through the night. Doing my best to try to direct folks on where to go and what to do. And, we tried to bunker folks down prior to this, but, we're only a few people on the streets trying to do what we do. So, again, Tuesday night was really tough. Prior to the actual storm hitting, we lost somebody at the hospital that we knew and we cared for. She was out on Roseville Road. We've been working with her since March. And she's one of the people that we were really fighting to get into housing because she had a heart condition. At the time when we met her, she was 7.5 months pregnant. Very high risk. And we had fought, and at that point she didn't make the COVID category. So it was 65 or older with chronic conditions. So she wasn't one of those people that made it on that list, having to do her pregnancy and ultimately calling me before they called the paramedics as she went into labor in the camp. And so again, Monday night, she passed away from a heart clot or a blood clot and then congestive heart failure. So we were dealing with that prior to the storm. And then the night of the storm, like I said, 150 calls easily trying to cover this. So this isn't like we're just asking for this now. For the last 5 years, we've written letters almost weekly talking about weathering conditions, chronic conditions, conditions of not having housing, things like it takes, 30 years off of someone's life to be living outside. That people can die in 50-degree temperatures, not what they're, putting the numbers at. We've written letters. We've engaged them and said sweeps are going to kill people. The X Street and Alhambra sweep happened a week before they we ended up having someone pass on X Street. We've had a sweep in the South Sacramento area. Within a few hours after the sweep, someone had passed away who had liver issues. Again, we're asking that folks be sheltered in place until the city or county can bring in the resourcing. So the city of Sacramento has continued to fail at this. Through lawsuits, they continue to violate. And now that it's in the public eye, they seem to want to care. By opening warming centers. Again, warming centers are a band-aid on a bleed-out situation. Not dissing the warming centers at all, but that's not housing. And at the end of the day, people can't pack up all their belongings. They can't do this just to have to turn around and pack back up in the morning and head back out. So it's become definitely difficult. We've had the power since March of 2020 to commandeer these hotels. They're not doing it. Hotels are not supposed to be operating unless they are essential. And we have 11,000 people on the streets. 700 of these are kids. And they are, we're trying to hold these folks accountable now. Darrell Steinberg, we've gone rounds and rounds with since he was put into office. Again, writing letters, forewarning him, letting him know of conditions, trying to engage, trying to work with him. The number one hate mail I'm getting right now is, well, why don't you work with him? He's a champion of homelessness. I'm like, he's a champion who does not listen to this community. You can call him champion all you want. He's failed people. And so just to throw some terms out there, 2017, he went into office. Since 2017, within the city, we've had over 500 deaths. Again, this is no warming centers. This is people freezing to death, dying from heat stroke, cardiac arrest, just you name it. And then, of course, the elements add to that. So I'm going to go over, we did put out the request to have him resign on January the 31st. His response was not an apology to the families and friends of those who died. His response was to have his people that he pays to write his fancy letters write a list of all the things that he's done. So I'm going to read this list, and we're not going to debunk it, like I can't prove this stuff right on camera, but we will be having this slide stuff to show how this is not what it says to be. So the number one thing he said was he held a joint meeting of the city. So this was the first year. He held a joint meeting of the city and county specifically on housing for the homeless. We hold weekly meetings on housing with the union, and we try to engage people who are trying to build in this city. A lot of our groups, have great ideas. The Compassion Village, for instance, tiny homes. There's issues there. They refused a permit. They refused safe ground. They refused all these different things. So anyone can hold a meeting on homelessness and housing. But again, where is it physically? We've raised tons of money. Where is this stuff physically? Set aside 1,755 housing choice vouchers for those experiencing or at risk of homelessness over the 3 years. Yes, we've had a crap ton of housing choice vouchers. We've had a ton of motel vouchers. Again, this doesn't add up to anything. So what is going on is the police department will give people a 3 to 7 day voucher. They go into a motel. They're given a housing choice voucher, and the housing does not match on the other end of it. Then these housing choice vouchers expire, and then people end up back on the streets or stay on the streets. We see this more often than none. There's no connection because there's no phones. There's no way to charge your phones if you do have a phone out on the streets. So they also at times miss appointments, and then they are dropped from these programs. So the third thing he says is secured $64 million in whole person care pilot for outreach and case management. Sacramento was the first city to do this. As of October 2020, Sacramento whole care program called Pathways has served more than 2,000 people and has placed 857 clients in permanent and transitional housing. Okay. So I will give it to him. He raises money. We know this. He raises a lot of money. We see it all day long. But again, where is the physical attributes of this? Pathways is a great program. This is something that's great. When they say that they've served more than 2,000 people, so this is people going in through the doors, counseling, mental health services, and it says placed 857 clients in permanent or transitional housing. So again, they're considering transitional housing a lot of times as these motels. They're considering it as places like they're like housing that multiple people will go into. What they're not counting is how many people have been displaced from these programs, how many people are actually now on their feet, how many people are actually on, off the streets. A lot of times these transitional housings end up with people being turned out because they don't have the actual physical housing to keep people into. And so we see people right back on the street. And I will read these questions in just a second. So I'm just getting through the first year of his list and talking about kind of the real narrative of this. Worked with the county to get $44 million for additional mental health services for those experiencing mental health. Now, I have plenty of families who try to help their family members who have mental health issues. Mental health is a mess. Between Medi-Cal and getting people in, the services just are not there. We do have, our sites where they 5150 folks. But actually getting counseling and that type of stuff, it takes you going to your doctor, getting a referral. That generally takes 6 months. Then once you get the referral, the process of getting people into the mental health aspect of it, it generally takes a year. Now this is the same process for like rehabilitation. You know, I've had people who want help and they can't get off the streets to get help. They are criminalized often for mental health issues. We have a gentleman, a family member who, you know, is trying to help his family or her family, but she can't because there's mental health issues. And every time they start getting this person stabilized on medication, the police impact team comes and they remove this person and they take their medicine, take all their belongings, put them in jail, put them in handcuffs. And because the person does have mental health issues, they do get feisty with the police because that's, you know, it's a fear basis. We have to look at the engagement of mental health. There is no role for police in mental health, period. They're not, again, social workers. They're not mental health professionals. They're not psychiatrists. They are there to do a job. Their job is to criminalize, and you can't, you know, that would be like me walking into a hospital saying I'm a nurse and trying to perform, or a doctor and trying to perform surgery. It's just not adequate. It's not working out right. Okay, so the next thing. This is my favorite one. So this is in his first year. Opened a 200-bed triage shelter on Railroad. This was the city's first low-barrier shelter offering people with pets, partners, and possessions. It was originally approved for the winter, but the mayor insisted it remained open for 16 months, serving a total of 658 people. More than 264 people were placed in long-term housing. Okay, that's not true. So he's talking about the shelter on Railroad. Railroad, if you guys have been down there to serve, you guys know that this shelter, first of all, you had somebody at the front gate. The entire gate is covered in razor wire. So we're talking internment camp, basically. I served there almost nightly. We had issues of overflowing porta potties. We had issues of ADA compliance issues. It wasn't 200 beds. For like the first 5 or 6 months, it was 200 beds. Then they reduced it down to 100 beds for mental health priority. And so with that being said, again, ADA issues. We had a woman who was in there who had a dog who had to lay with her to feel for seizures. They insisted that these animals be placed in cages. And again, if you were like a minute late, you couldn't be in there. For folks interested in investigating this, reach out to the property owner who owns that now. The property owner that owned it at the time, there was a lot of bad business deals. And so here's the thing that generally floors people. They were charging $4,000 a head at the end of this program. There was no food service. It was basically opening a building, letting people sleep. And so again, $4,000 a head, we could get people apartments. We could get multiple people apartments for that. So again, that's what he's championed himself on. He's continued to try to push this idea statewide. And it's not okay. Opening warming centers. It says opening warming centers providing respite for over 700 people, 2016, 2017. Again, pulling he's a mess. Again, the warming centers, he may have had people come in and out of them. Maybe. I would like to see proof of where the 700 people is. Where's the documentation? Where's that? Because we have had to fight tooth and nail just for them to open them. The standards before was it had to be 32 degrees, which is freezing temperatures for 3 days, before they would even consider opening them. And again, this is a guideline from the county. This is not the city can do what they want. Darrell Steinbergs helped write this guidance, so him hiding behind this, guise of, well, the county is making us do it. No, the county's not making him do it. He knows that it's a guideline. Any other guidelines that benefits him, he will break those with a quickness. We've had multiple people, like I said, engaged in wanting to offer private property. We've had people engaged in having community solutions. We have people willing to pay for the community solutions, and it's just a fat denial all the way across the board. Unless it's his idea, then, or something major like death happens, then it becomes a thing. Let me see if I can scroll real quick before we get to the second year. Okay. Champion of homeless, for sure. He keeps homeless a reality. Yes, that's true. So we call it poverty pimping. Basically, it's making money off of people who are unhoused. They only care when the numbers come in because of funding. And again, what do we physically have for this funding? We can bring Band-Aid solutions all day long. It's not doing anything. Groups like ours and other groups are doing mutual aid, and we've done more to this, bringing just mutual aid to the streets versus, what's even been looked at in our systems. Let me see. Where are they going to move in with the HCV? There is no housing. Absolutely, there is no housing. So we lack, according to Mutual Housing, we lack 63,000 units of affordable housing per HUD guidelines. So again, that's federal guidelines, and we lack 63,000. And they continue to tear down our low income, and they continue to bend underneath this luxury developers wanting to build luxury apartments, which nobody can afford at this point. I mean, even folks with like 2-3 jobs, medical folks can't even afford half the stuff that they're trying to put up. There should be public charging stations. Absolutely, there should be. So people know, like, everybody's like, well, why don't you just go get a free Obama phone? Okay, well, free Obama phones, you still have to have an address to get. Many people don't have to just live the lifeline. And so, again, we have that issue. People can't even get phones. I have multiple phones in my name because we can't get people to get phones. And so, again, it makes it difficult. It's dangerous because people do need that access to communication, not only for resourcing, but in case of emergencies. There is not permanent housing. No, there's not permanent housing. And again, people are being evicted at an alarming rate. Landlords can increase rent. You know, it's really sick. Steinbergs, I'll talk, no action. The mayor needs to be accountable for his actions. He's great at empty words and promises, 100%. Steinberg wrote the MHSA Mental Health Service Act. Absolutely, he did. It's his baby, and he should go down with it. Over $2 billion a year wasted on mental health services in California. Yep, that's true. He connects homelessness, like our attorney said in our press conference. According to him, everybody has a mental health issue who is homeless. And so, again, not every unhoused person has mental health issues, but when it contributes back into your pocket, when you own an institute in San Francisco, that's a problem. There's corruption involved in that. You know, if we can connect mental health money and homeless money and connect it back into, you know, our own mental health system that we've created, that funnels money back into your pockets. I wonder if any money from that shelter went to electrical upgrades to grow cannabis. So yeah, that is a cannabis club area. There's 8 cannabis clubs in District 2, which is a huge issue because the whole intent behind that was to bring business and to allow opportunity for our Black and brown communities, and it, you know, and to, you know, bring revenue to fix that area up. Del Paso Heights, if you've been down there, is nothing but closed buildings, tattered buildings. It's trashed. And so again, that's not what's happening. We have a lot of techie and, you know, just techie folks that are, you know, coming across this, running these businesses, and that was not its purpose or intention. We helped with housing, but they tear it up. But we still help. Why do they tear it up when we do help? I believe we need to, oops, let me see if I can read that. I believe we need to help, and my family does. But when we go back and check on them, they tear up the walls and toilets. I don't understand. So a lot of people do have mental health issues. We do understand that and see that, and we do appreciate that you help. We need to definitely work with the folks that we get in there. This is more than just housing. This is where we ask that there be wraparound services. We got to understand if somebody's been on the streets for 25 years, for instance, they're not socially connected the same way we are anymore. Just imagine being put on the streets, being chased around the streets, being, you know, tormented, harassed. We have people shoot BBs into camps. We have, you know, just this like level of being like stuck in survival mode. So again, the wraparound services do need to be provided. We don't see that always. They'd have, again, tore down low-income units without having any procedure or protocol. So displacing people. The Capitol Motel is a great example of that. That was a, the people that were in the Capitol Motel were high-risk, vulnerable folks. And so we're talking, I think we had a few parolees in there. We had a lot of seniors in there. And so when they decided that they wanted to make this into a shelter, they paid out a few people. But basically, the majority of the people ended up on the streets, and then they turned it into a shelter. So they displaced people who were housed for a shelter, which, you know, that doesn't sound terrible, but at the end of the day, that place should have been condemned. There was one elevator to multiple floors, 2 bathrooms for 118 rooms, fires. There was no heat, no air conditioning during the seasons. And so again, this is the type of facilities that they place folks in. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the mayor's list. The mayor, year 2, extended operations at the North Sacramento shelter on Railroad. So again, I encourage anybody who wants to see what happened with that. We could tell you what happened with that. There's news articles about, the conditions. We always see the false narrative, though, of, well, this is a great thing. Great ideas, but in the same sense, it can't be operated like an internment camp. We're all free here. We're not going to, cage folks. That's not cool. And again, like I said, I even if you can't stop or you don't want to stop or you're uncomfortable stopping, I encourage you to drive down Railroad. That entire street is now nothing but unhoused folks. Most of them have been dumped out. Most of them started there either in the shelter or they were around the shelter trying to be able to get into the shelter. And now there's nowhere for them to go, which this has caused huge issues with the businesses. Is if you follow Black Zebra, you've seen recently we've had a property owner waving a gun at our unhoused folks. They're bullied. They've had landscapers come around property, which isn't even theirs. It's public property, come level trees on top of tents. It's just nonstop. It's ugly. And this is stuff we've warned about anyways. But, and then he launched whole person care with new outreach teams. So we do have whole person care, but there's no resources. So what are we paying people to do here? We have navigators out. We have, from my understanding, there's 8 navigators one for each district, 11,000 people. So eight navigators to 11,000 people. That's a little ridiculous. You can talk to anybody on the streets. They will tell you that, the only way into shelters is through policing or through the navigation system. And again, you may see your navigator once, but then you can never get a hold of them again. This is what we constantly hear. And it's really hard on the navigators. I give it to the navigators. They're out there doing their job. But again, they lack the resources. The police department lacks the resources. The police department, for those who don't know, are the only one with the necessities like hotel vouchers. We have the impact team, which is supposed to be resourcing folks. They're not supposed to be on the policing element of stuff. And they don't, obviously they don't. So they're criminalizing. They don't have the resources. I can prove this. I have a whole list of emails in which they put people in hotels and then reached out to us for food and supplies. After a sweep, they've picked up our seniors that they've swept and took all their belongings, put them in a hotel. They call us for food. And then, it's not that we're expected to, because we're always going to take care of our people. We're not going to work with the police department, but we're going to take care of our people. And again, at this point, to what? For 3 to 7 days, then they're dumped out. Then I'm having to find tents, and we're having to find blankets and sleeping bags, and, again, major weather storms. Like, this is what the cycle is. This is not helpful. Again, so year 2, he used position as head of California Big City Mayor Group to lobby $500 million in state funds for emergency solutions to homelessness in California and cities and counties. The city of Sacramento directly received $5.6 million. Sacramento steps forward, received $12.7 million to invest in city and county. Again, let's look at this operation here. Let's break this down. $500 million, okay? Like I said in the beginning of this, I give him credit. He raises money. But what do we physically have? Emergency funds for emergency solutions. We couldn't even open warming centers in year 2. We couldn't even afford to get people tents. Where's this money going? And what we're seeing the money, I'll just break that part down real quick. The money goes to what is called homeless services. So homeless services means paying for the police department to follow around the garbage cans, which the garbage men cost a shit ton of money. They bring in and pay a claw to come take people's survival gear as they move them along. So we have those 3 different elements of where that money is. That is considered homeless services. If you look it up, this is all on paper. Police sweeps are considered homeless services. And so, again, this is where we're seeing, overtime for police departments. We're seeing, these garbage facilities. And again, it's kind of putting people in crap positions who are like garbage men and like construction folks, because it's like they have to come out with the contract and destroy people's homes. And, the number one question I always ask folks is like, whether it be the police department, whether it be, these different groups or whoever's doing what they're doing, I look them in their eyes and I ask them, do you morally feel right about displacing these folks? Do you understand there's nowhere for them to go? Because most of the time people will say, well, there's resources. There is no resources. We do this all day, every day. And so Sacramento Steps Forward, again, received money. Sacramento Steps Forward actually has been working really hard since COVID to get things done. I know there's a lot of controversy around Sacramento Steps Forward and what their position really is. Again, they continue to say things like, well, we funded Sacramento Self-Help Housing. Well, again, they're a referral service. These are referral type services. These aren't houses. This isn't places for people to go. If there's no place to send people or no housing to house people, why do we have all these companies in the middle playing middlemen? It's not working out there. So the next thing for year two, secured 2 new positions for the city's homeless division. So this would be, I believe, Emily Halcon. Again, secured 2 new positions. Like, positions doing what? Coming up with research, data, numbers. Like, we get it. Like, you need that stuff for funding, but it never makes it to the bottom, ever. It doesn't make it to the housing. It doesn't make it to the people. It doesn't make it to, it doesn't prevent people from dying on our streets. And so, again, appointing people, that's just another thing. So, year 3, now we're getting closer to where we are now. Okay. So, year 3 would be, the first thing he did was he was appointed by Gavin Newsom to lead the statewide commission on homelessness and supportive housing. Okay, so we are asking for his resignation on this. Statewide, on Tuesday, we had devastation. It was something that the Red Cross should have been called in on, or National Guard to help. We literally spent hours and hours and hours taping up poles because we didn't have the emergency resources to, get new tents for folks. Most of the tents were shredded. And again, this was statewide. So as his role as the chair of this statewide commission, it's insane that the League of Cities, which controls all of our cities in California, the Association of Counties, which controls all of our counties, and this commission did not get off their ass and, have an emergency meeting. Hey, a storm is coming. Hey, how do we protect the 200,000 people on the streets? They didn't do that. And so that led to, again, 6 deaths here in Sacramento, deaths statewide. Like, I don't even know how many at this point. We're still trying to figure that out. Deaths statewide. I had people crossing rivers. We have pictures of this stuff. People trying to cross rivers as they're being flooded out. We had, again, the deaths. We had people freezing to death. We don't even know the number of people that were in the hospital for hypothermia or other related, element-related conditions. So, again, being appointed to a position, anybody can be appointed to a position. What are you actually doing? So the next thing he says is successfully lobbied to nearly double state investments in emergency shelters. How many shelters do we have open, guys? We literally don't have shelter in Sacramento. Union Mission is a church that's been volunteering. They've been closed since March because of COVID. All due respect, this church has been doing their own thing, grassroots-wise. They're not a funded entity. Capitol Motel. Again, they housed, they had the 118 rooms, the terrible conditions. It was a funded shelter, but in October, in the midst of the pandemic, they shut down so they could renovate. So right now, as it stands, the only real physical shelter that we have is the Meadowview Shelter for Women, which has been closed about 98% of the time because of positive cases of COVID inside it. There's nowhere for the men to go. And where we are seeing sheltering capacity is through churches or people opening up their homes. And that's not part of what he's trying to claim, that he's doing over here. You can lobby money all day long. We don't have the physical resources to put people in. That's not okay. Okay, so his next thing is launched an ambitious plan to site 100 shelter beds in each district, in each council district. Only one district actually did this, which was Steve Hansen's district, so Midtown. I think that's District 4. That's where they brought in this Capitol Motel, which was supposed to be 200 beds. So we were able to, he was supposed to launch, well, there's 8 districts, so it should have been 800 beds. So instead of that, one district stepped up to the plate. And again, the conditions were so bad that it was almost unlivable. So again, I could launch something right now. I could say, hey, I want, every one of you to open up at least one room. Anybody can do this. Anybody can say that they've successfully launched something. Again, successfully set aside $16 million for homelessness in city's mid-year budget. Again, most of that money went to policing. Policing the unhoused, to criminalizing the unhoused, to police sweeps, to mitigation. Mitigation is another fancy term we want to watch for. They use a lot of gray words in writing and budgets and, and policy. Mitigation tends to be for, hey, I have this idea. I want to open this shelter. So mitigation, we're going to pay the contractor to discuss this idea $100 million. We're going to pay our administrators $100 million. We're going to, pay this person to potentially look at how much it's going to cost for bedding, $100 million. But it never, again, these things don't ever come into play. Again, look at Cal Expo. Cal Expo was supposed to be this pop-up shelter. Never came to play. Again, unless we're having gold toilets, there's no reason that this should be costing what they're saying. Allocated funding to enhance traditional shelter beds in the River District into low barrier and service-rich shelters. Okay. So for those who don't know, the River District has a rule. In the 80s, they made a rule that they didn't want any more homeless type services in the River District. And that's what helped win this current lawsuit. That the luxury builders said that they didn't want the project room key to be at the hotel down the street. And so again, they're not funding things that you guys may think they are. The city isn't funding Loaves and Fishes. That's grassroots, that's donation. Anything that is actually successfully running, with the exception of these new warming centers, has been grassroots funded. And we've been trying to continue these services. And again, they're going to take credit. They try to co-opt, and that's what they do. We deal with it all day long. And so then it goes to, again, this round 3. Opened 180-bed shelter at Capitol Park in downtown. So when that first opened, again, they displaced all the folks that were already staying there. And it says 180, but it was actually 118. Again, the conditions were really bad. Our Sacramento Tenants Union went in and tried to organize. They were told they could not be in there. They ended up pushing them out. There's all kinds of media on this too. There was bed bugs. The conditions were just horrible. Roaches. Again, no heat, no air. And so again, we can make this look great. This is where the narrative shift, and this is what we're trying to teach people, is that when you say I opened a 180 bed shelter in the Capitol Park Motel downtown Sacramento, that sounds amazing to folks who aren't researching or understand this. When you say I opened a 118 bed shelter with roaches, and it was dilapidated, and we didn't have elevators for the ADA, and we only had 2 bathrooms for the entire building, and we had no heat, no air, and that's the real narrative. This is where the media flips shit up. And so again, SACB does have a lot of articles on this, which is great because it does show that other side. But again, this is something that we face constantly. I could put out a list like this, again, debunking this list, and then showing the real stories. They're very one-sided. Again, our media, most of them tend to focus on the mayor side of things, or the city side of things. It's not the side of the real story. There's no investigative reporting. The city opened 40 scatter site housing units for people experiencing homelessness. Okay, this isn't him again. So again, the city. When we say the city, that includes our councils making their decisions. Why he's taking credit for what the entire council's doing, I couldn't tell you. Scattered site shelters and housing. So open 40. Okay, so we have 40 with 11,000 people on the streets. Again, scattered site shelters aren't bad. There's not enough. There's not the pool to get people into actual housing after this scattered site shelter. Again, shelter is shelter. We need housing. Shelter's temporary. Temporary solutions end up with people back on the ground. Let me go through this really quick. It says SSF took a huge cut. Yes, SSF. This is the thing too. The city, when there's successes, they will be like, we're all with Sacramento Steps Forward, or we're with these other groups, and they're all with it. The moment stuff plays out, though, all of a sudden it's, well, Sacramento Steps Forward didn't do it, or this is on SHRA. There's a lot of finger pointing every which way. Always. It doesn't matter. Even when we've asked for a confrontation, we're like, where did these sweeps come from? Who ordered these sweeps? Why are these sweeps happening? The police department's pointing at the mayor's pointing at the council's pointing at the city manager. It's stupid. Nobody wants to take accountability. They just want to do. And then they want to none of them are going to be the fall guy, so they point the finger at each other. And they complain when they are pushed into residential areas so that they go into vacant lots and fields. Absolutely. So what does happen is when people are, again, dispersed, they end up in front of people's homes and parks, in front of businesses. And then they call 311. When we call 311, then that reverts back to the same circle of calling the police department, doing the sweeps, and we start all over. So again, vicious circle of no solutions at all. Let's see. As soon as Mercy found out SAC Tenants Union was, okay, so this is from somebody from the Tenants Union who was, the organizing folks that were trying to organize the tenants that were getting kicked out, and then also trying to organize with the folks that were being put into the shelter. So what Erica said is, as soon as Mercy found out Sacramento Tenants Union was in the building, they posted improper notices that Liznick, which is our legal group, cited them for saying that they couldn't have any guests. So yeah, in the beginning of this, people could have guests, and when the Tenants Union went in to organize, to make sure people's rights weren't being violated, they again banned the Tenants Union, and they also threatened, a lot of people don't know, they threatened the folks that were in there that they wouldn't be able to return if they talked to the media or they talked to, to the Tenants Union. SHRA manages the Capitol Motel. Yes, SHRA is a huge pain in our ass. They get lots of property, and again, this all connect the dots. Like, there's no funding to build the housing. So, like, our lot on 5700 Stockton Boulevard, that's SHRA owned too. Businesses got tired of seeing the 200 people there that had been there for 10 years. Most of them were original residents of this property that when it was a motel and a trailer park. Kicked them out. They were promised that they were going to be doing building housing. So this is like 10 years ago. That never happened. So now the majority of our folks on Stockton Boulevard were from that trailer park and stuff. And so now we have all these people just roaming the streets and getting kicked out. And so again, SHRA, a lot of talk. Even in I think it was like January, it was like 2019, I think. It was on my birthday. There was a huge blowout at City Hall. This was the same night that the mayor had to apologize for shoving people into extreme temperatures. Sound familiar? He called out SHRA because SHRA doesn't do anything. If you look at their income for the SHRA workers, hundreds of thousands of dollars for, hang on one second. Scarlett, be careful, please. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for employees, no housing to show. So, the next thing on the mayor's list, published op-ed in Los Angeles Times calling for statewide legal right to okay. I can't even get through this one. All right. Published an op-ed in the Los Angeles Times calling for statewide legal right for people to sleep indoors. Creating such a right would compel the local, state, and governments to provide sufficient shelter or face legal liability. So, let's break that one down. What that is right to enforced shelter. Again, that would mean that if you were homeless and you weren't inside, you would be criminalized. That's why this didn't float. So he went to New York, the next leading city with homelessness, by the way, to look up right to shelter. Now, right to shelter doesn't sound bad. It really doesn't. But when you add the criminalization element of you're being forced into shelter through policing, through criminalization, if you don't go into housing. So say you have an issue in your housing and, there's just too much wrong with this. I'm not going to have somebody force me to live into a certain house, especially if there's conditions issues or if there's issues with, the property owners or other people that they put inside. They don't ever just give you a house. It's not like that. It sounds like it is, but it's not. Again, you're not going to criminalize somebody for not being placed in shelter, a temporary Band-Aid. That's just unacceptable. And again, we remember what his shelter looked like. A razor wire internment camp, overflowing toilets, ADA compliance issues. It wasn't it's what he says. So again, I don't think any of us would ever want to be put in that situation. Erica says there was no heat last winter at the Capitol Park Hotel. There was not. I have pictures of and the notices they posted about it inside the building. The last visit, hold on. Everything just jumped down. Where'd it go? The last visit I made was when it was operating as the shelter, and they put up cameras at every angle inside when you walked up the stairs to the first floor, there was a camera. And so on every entryway along the hallways, cameras everywhere. Okay. Richard says, Steinberg did nothing to end the practice of downtown street teams paying $20 for 4 hours of work cleaning up trash, and he claimed to be pro-labor. Ha. Yeah, we'll get there eventually. Okay, so we're now to year 4. I'm sorry this is taking so long, guys, but there's a lot to debunk on his list in general. Year 4. Secured council approval for the city to create $100 million affordable housing fund. Okay, we're still talking about money. So again, great money maker. Great at fundraising. Change your day job, homie. For real. So when we don't have housing to place people, when we don't have wraparound resources, it leaves people outside to die. Again, we're on year 4. So again, as you see, you know, lots and lots of money, but where has this money gone? We were asking for an audit prior to COVID, but we weren't able to get it because we've been, again, in survival mode since then. I would love to see where all of this money has gone, because as we know, there's been limited to no resourcing. Charging $4,000 a head for people to, you know, to live in a shelter that's like condemnable is unacceptable. Year 4, so we're in this year right now. Open the Meadowview Navigation Center for Women on 100 beds. Okay, we fought this, and I'm going to tell you why. So, congregant sheltering brings a lot of public health issues. I understand that we need to get people inside. I'm the first one to say that. But when you are putting 100 people together in a room who may have MRSA, who may have something that is contractable, at this point COVID, that's dangerous. You're placing everybody under the same roof to do this. And this isn't, again, a solution. This is where this is going to end. He's going to be like, well, I put up a navigation center. That's good enough. No, it's not good enough, because those people still have to leave. Those people are still homeless. Those people still do not have housing options or wraparound services. As far as Meadowview Navigation Center, it's beautiful inside. It's nice. It is something that you would see during a disaster relief type effort. But Meadowview Shelter has been closed about 98% of the time due to positive COVID testing. Right now it's closed. So right before the sweep on Stockton Boulevard, the police department came out, offered the women this shelter. And what happened during that time, it was like they came out the next day, there was the day space, and then they were supposed to come out the following day to get these women, to get them off the street. This was only probably about 2 months ago or a month and a half ago. They were supposed to get them into this Meadowview shelter. They came back out and said, we can't do it. Everybody has COVID. We've had to shut it down. So again, the majority of this time, this has been shut down due to COVID. Again, just to add to this really quick, all resources that have been given to the unhoused have been on a list. The list has 2 resources out of 12 that are actually active. So that the whole list is basically like Union Mission, which has been closed since March. You know, there's no actual sleeping shelter or housing solutions. The other ones that are open are to be able to receive like vouchers for like your ID. It says motel vouchers, but the motel vouchers aren't the same. And so basically people don't have a resource to go to. The city has engaged this new community response team, which that's a whole nother mess. But basically, just in short, the community response team was happening. This community's outcry was to quit bringing policing into homelessness and mental health and into our community issues. We don't need it. They hired Bridget Dean, who happened to be the lead lieutenant social worker of the Impact team, which is our policing team for the homeless. She's now running this whole show of like community response. She's also in charge of the youth. It's where the police come out, and it's the youth unit with the police department. They come out and they do like door knocks, and they do the school stuff. And so again, policing still huge in this element. Like, why are we funding another program having the same person in charge who does all this policing stuff? So since her time in the office, our sweeps have started all over again. We had a moment of peace, but we are now seeing sweeps, and her presentation the other night was that they are cleanups. They're not cleanups, they are sweeps, which we have, we have tons of record. You all follow Black Zebra. You guys have seen what happened. And so the difference between a sweep and a cleanup and the difference between the county and the city. So we'll start with the county. The county asks that are unhoused put their trash out in front. And just like the rest of us, the garbage person drives around and they come and pick up the trash. The city is doing it for them, taking whatever they feel like they want to take. And it's not putting trash out front, it's taking their camps and whatnot. Let's see. Opened Grove Cabin Community for Transition-Aged Youth in North Sacramento. Again, he's taking an awful lot of credit for things that the community has done. The community's involvement with Grove Cabin, the churches, again, where's the council's pat on the back? This is, look at me, look what I've done as mayor. No, this isn't what he's done as mayor. This is what the community has come forward, said, absolutely, we're going to fight for this, we want this. Community members have helped in the building of this, the process, the funding, all of that. So it's pretty disgusting and narcissistic to take this type of approach of, look what I've done, when, again, it's about this community. At some point, he's got to realize that this community's engagement is 100% of what he does. The other night with the city council and with the participatory budgeting, that was so we could have a say-so in where our money goes. And it was an absolute no. I mean, I've never seen somebody turn so red and get so pissed off so quick, but it's what it is. So again, Grove Community Cabins are for transitional aged youth, North Sacramento. There's 50 beds. This is a pretty decent program, actually. Again, it's something, but it's small. Like 4 years, we should have more progress in this already. So the next thing is secured final state approval to build the shelter along the WX freeway at Alhambra and Broadway. Construction underway, 100 beds. So this is why they've been moving our folks too. Just an FYI. Again, no procedure, no protocol, no, Harry, you stay here till we build the shelter. Instead, let's remove seniors, high risk, people with COVID off the streets and just tell them to kick rocks and go into your neighborhoods and figure it out. And so, again, secured final state approval. We can all do this. This is nothing fancy. He's acting like he's done something, tokenizing everybody else along the way. As co-chair of Governor's Council of Regional Homeless Advisors, secured unanimous approval from commissioners to support a legally enforceable mandate on all levels of government to address homelessness. The call for a mandate was incorporated into AB 3269. I need to look more into this, but again, we're talking about making things enforceable. Legally enforceable. These are the words he's using. Legally enforceable, mandates. Again, these are discussed with this regional coalition. 0 impacted voices. 0, you can't go into someone, this would be like me walking into your neighborhood and saying, check it out, this is how shit's going to go now. You have to follow these rules. You can only use the bathroom from this time to this time. We're going to eat at this time, and, I don't care what the rest of your neighborhood feels like. We're just going to do it, and this is how it's going to be. None of us would put up with this. Just because they don't have a roof over their head doesn't mean they get to be treated any different than the rest of us. And then, so the next thing is, in partnership with Sacramento County, the City of Sacramento launched Project Roomkey. In partnership with Sacramento County, the City of Sacramento launched Project Roomkey and has housed more than 1,000 people in hotel rooms and trailers. Oh, the frustration's real. So, most of you guys don't know, I sit in a lot of meetings. I hear a lot of stuff, and it's not just, hearsay, it's actual meetings, city, county meetings. The City of Sacramento has pulled away from what is called the Emergency Response Team. So the Emergency Response Team was developed when COVID first hit. It is the city, the county, SHRA, and Sacramento steps forward. Hang on one second, guys. Give me just a second. Hey, Scarlett. Hi. Can you please take that in the other room? Hang on one second, guys. Sorry, guys. I'm a mom in the process of all of this. So, Project Roomkey. Again, this is a great idea. Project Room Key would be a great first step triaging system. Totally down for this system. What I'm not down for is that they continue to say we've housed 1,000 people in hotel rooms and trailers. They've housed 1,000 people because what they've done is they've put them in, and then when they don't like somebody, or they don't like, or they feel like they don't want this one person in there, they've thrown them out. So what we need to do to break this down is, you've housed more than 1,000 people. How many people have you displaced from these hotel rooms, though? We need to get numbers on this, because we know for a fact that 1,000 people have not stayed in there. They have not been put in transitional housing. In fact, there was such strict rules when this first came out. People could only leave their room for 5 minutes, and they, Freshers is doing the food, which is great, but it wasn't enough food, and so people didn't even have the time to walk to the local gas station. If they missed their little 30-minute window, they were kicked out. There was no fixing of vehicles in the parking lots was one of the rules. We had somebody who was trying to fix their vehicle after someone had come in and slashed all their tires. Now, like you and I, we may be able to afford a tow truck to take it to the shop to get it fixed. They were trying to fix their tires. They were kicked out. So again, how many of these people were really housed? These are where the narratives get all funky. So let's see. Again, the Project Room Key is a great idea. When it comes down to it, though, Project Room Key, Gavin Newsom in March 2020 gave full permission to commandeer hotels. Why haven't we done it? We could get everybody off the streets if we commandeer hotels, keep them safe from COVID. That single occupancy rooms, bathrooms in the rooms, hand washing, food. Again, we've had so many volunteers that have said, hey, we'll help run these programs. You don't have to pay the Goodwill Industries, which, by the way, is now dumping folks from this. I'll explain that in a minute. But, VOA, you don't have to pay these folks. There's people that will come in and volunteer to just get people off the streets. So this month, February 15th, we've had people in Project Room Key. So, like the Vagabond is a spot downtown. We've had people go into Project Room Key in March, and they have been stuck there because there's no housing available. Therefore, making it so nobody else can get in. So we do have high-risk 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old women, men on the streets. They're supposed to be off the streets because of COVID. They are high risk. We have people with chronic conditions that are high risk that have never been able to even access Project Room Key because the bottleneck. They're stuck in this, these people have been stuck in this situation. And since COVID, they've closed down an additional one of the Project Room Keys. They're getting ready to close the Vagabond. People don't know this yet. If they're in there, they've been told that they have until the 15th to figure something out. Not that the social workers or the housing specialists or people that would necessarily have these resources are supposed to figure it out. The people inside who are unhoused need to figure out a living situation by the 15th. We're looking at probably, I think it's about 75 to 100 people being dumped just from the Vagabond. And so, again, back to the streets we go. So that's disgusting. So his next thing, used federal stimulus funds to pay for 56 hand washing stations and portable toilets next to the encampments. Oh, Lord. I haven't read this list until today. So the fact of the matter is the city didn't do shit when COVID first hit. It was everybody shelter in place, everything shut down, and to hell with the homeless and what happens to them. With that being said, homeless lost access to their phones. They didn't know what the hell was going on. We ended up, through Katie Maple, who's my partner at Sock Soup, we were able to secure 30 hand washing stations. We were the first people to get these hand washing stations out, and we dealt with nothing but red tape. Not in the county. The county was great about it. They were like, this is awesome, set them out. The city, we put them in Cesar Chavez Park. They fought us until our contract was up. So they said that they got 56 hand washing stations. We had 30 of them. So the contract rolled over to Sacramento Steps Forward, who was in charge of all of this. So the 30 of them came originally from us. They did add toilets, which, as many of you know, toilets have been a fight for God knows how long. Just one toilet, in general. They ripped out toilets in Cesar Chavez Park to place this portable loo, which has been disgusting. It's been on the news. It's one bathroom for how many people downtown? Again, it pisses me off when it comes to this because it's not just the unhoused that need the bathrooms. If any of you guys have children, if, you know, maybe you have bladder issues, maybe if you're older, we have no access to bathrooms, period, downtown. Like, you have to buy something in order to go in and to use a restroom. And when you're homeless, that isn't even, you know, it isn't even acceptable. 60% of our city and county owned bathrooms, even in public parks, are closed. And they do it to prevent homelessness in the parks. So we have that issue. Again, the hand washing stations, we made portable homemade hand washing stations. Those were removed. We've lost a bunch of them in police sweeps. They've all been documented. We have all their numbers. You know, again, anti-homeless rhetoric. The county, you know, normally I'm not going to stick up for the county. I'm not going to stick up for the city. Right is right, wrong is wrong. The city has been the one who has been pushing this. Nope, not in my backyard. Nope, we're not doing it. The county's actually come forward and been like, how can we help? What can we do? Like, which has been amazing. So it's led to partnerships of getting, you know, food out, making sure the sanitation's in the bigger camps, you know, coordinating, not having sweeps. We've had 2 police sweeps that we are aware of in the county in the entire 11 months. The city, we've had over 15 in the last 2 weeks. Like, they are just off the hook. The city continues to be the way that they are. Okay, so again, and then he also states that he uses federal stimulus funds for this. What about all those hundreds of millions of dollars I just spoke to you guys about? Where's the stuff for that? We didn't even, you know, I mean, I get it, use the federal stimulus money, but in the same sense, like, now you're providing restrooms, now you're providing hand washing things because we have federal money. Okay, what about the rest of the money? I'm almost done with this, guys. So City of Sacramento is using a combined $22.4 million in city and state funds to convert a hotel in South Sacramento into permanent supportive housing as part of Project Roomkey. Ugh. I'm sorry. So this would be, I think it's called the Greens Motel. And so, as many of you know, 2 years ago they started this project. This is where the police are taking people for 3 days, 3 to 7 days, who are disabled, who are unhoused, who are high risk. This is when they got put in the spotlight of the shit show that happened on Stockton Boulevard. All of a sudden we had immediate hotel vouchers available. This is where they're placing people and then calling us. Again, they've stopped doing this because I've made this public. They don't like it. The police department was calling us, asking us to bring food. We still have people bringing out food supportively to this hotel, quietly. But again, not that we would ever turn anybody down, because that's not who we are. Why is this the responsibility of a grassroots organization that is getting donations of food and, sorry guys, getting food and, you know, has been doing this from, you know, buying things from garage sales to, you know, picking up people's leftover yard sale stuff, to asking the community to donate canned food? Why is this our responsibility? This is the city's responsibility. They are failing 11,000 people on the streets. Again, never going to turn anybody down. We will continue to do what we do because we know that the government's a failed state when it comes to this stuff. Homeless don't matter when in their eyes. It only matters for funding. So, and so 4 weeks ago, if you're a proponent of Safe Ground, or if you're part of Safe Ground, or you know what Safe Ground is, Safe Ground has been fighting for like 25 years. They've been fighting forever for a safe place to be. Okay? This has been a huge fight. Well, the heat got put on the mayor and the city council because of what we pulled forward with Eric Guerra and how he was dumping 200 people onto the streets, which, if you guys have seen those videos, there's tents everywhere overflowing onto Stockton Boulevard. People are getting hurt. People have been hit by cars. So all of a sudden, Safe Ground became something he wanted to champion. It's already something championed by the grassroots groups that have been doing it forever and have been trying to get it effective forever. However, on his list of what I've done is bringing measure to council on Tuesday, February the 2nd, that will direct the city to procure 63 tiny homes in 50 days, including 8 the city already has in, wrong one. City Council approved an emergency ordinance that allows for quick permitting of temporary safe parking lots and community of tiny homes, trailers, or sleeping cabins. Okay, I see who's on my my thing. How many of us literally have been trying to fight for safe ground, for safe parking spaces, sorry guys, I'm getting all kinds of messages right now. So again, how many of us have been fighting for this? How many of us have been saying like, hello, like, it's not that hard, you know, allow this county city property, like, what are we doing here? No. Because the mayor decided that he wants to do this because publicly his political career is facing some bullshit because he has done nothing, and we are calling this out, and because there's this spot of attorney general that he's looking to be, all of a sudden it's quick, let's do something and make it look like we've done something. 4 years, okay? 4 years of this shit. For real. So we're dealing with that. And for those who don't know about this ordinance, I've been part of the meetings. Like, I have to roll my eyes every time I say that. I've been part of these meetings. We had to have an emergency meeting because Safe Ground is a non-profit. Okay, Safe Ground is a group of folks that want self-governance in a safe area, using private, public property, whatever. The mayor and the council and all the folks involved decided that they wanted to water this down. They wanted to make it 1.5 miles away from any other resource. Okay, who's going to do that? Why would you leave your tent when you're right next to the resource to go into a safe ground location that you have to be miles away from your stuff? Why would you do that? There was a lot of gray areas in which the advocates came forward and was like, wait. And they do what they do best. They said, oh, well, this is just an ordinance and we can change this and that, but we need to put this into effect now. So they did. If you read it, 6 pages, you guys will be floored. Completely floored. Let's see. The next one is bring measure to council on Tuesday, February 2nd. So, what was that, 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago. Sorry, I got a lot of stuff going through my phone right now. February 2nd. 4 years of being a mayor, 4 years of this bullshit. Excuse my language, but it is what it is. That will direct the city to procure 63 tiny homes in 50 days. Okay, we've been talking about pallet homes and tiny homes and all this stuff. How many times have we heard this? As he ran for mayor, he said, I'm going to solve homelessness with tiny homes. We're going to do this immediately. We have to get this done. 4 years later, we're still waiting. Pallet homes, which, you know, he keeps talking about pallets. Okay, great. Pallet homes they're not a bad thing. 20 minutes pop up. Again, shelter. This isn't housing. This is shelter. The idea, like, there was an interview with me probably 2 years ago out in front of City Hall where these pallet shelters were at, where I was against them, okay? This is going to get played out. Well, she's against everything. No, I'm not against everything. I was against the fact that they were trying to put 6 people like sardines in a little tiny cabin. So that's important to point out. While housing ideas sound great, we always got to see what entails with these housing ideas. Tiny home, what are we going to do? Like, 13 people in a tiny home? It's just not doable. It's not okay how they're trying to treat people. So that was 2 nights ago, to get this ordinance, and get these tiny homes. We've got approval. We've had approval for 500 tiny homes too that we still haven't seen. I was on that interview too. So, let's see. We got 4 more. 1, this council approval for city to develop a master plan for siting homeless solutions city and statewide on a big enough scale to house thousands of people. The plan is expected to go to council in June. We had 6 people die Tuesday night. Well, we have to wait till June? Like, really? Like, how hard is this, guys? Like, for real. I was one of 2 people that started the emergency crisis, I don't know what you want to call it, the emergency pop-up crisis thing at Walmart when Paradise burned down, okay? We literally, within hours, had an entire parking lot set up as a relief center. We had churches coming forward opening their buildings. We had the Chico coming in and opening the old Toys R Us, which had just recently closed down. We had people being put inside. This is not okay. Like, this is a crisis. We are getting funding to be in a crisis situation, yet we're not treating it like a crisis. So, anyways, so again, he says 1, council approval for city to develop this master plan. Again, it's another master plan. We've heard master plan after master plan after master plan. Nothing still. Again, one city approval to restart the process of issuing $100 million affordable housing bonds. We do need housing bonds, I'll give them that, which had been delayed due to the pandemic. City allocated $4.7 million in federal stimulus funds for rental assistance to families at risk of becoming homeless during the pandemic, and another $15.3 million for the second federal stimulus bill is being added to that amount. Again, taking credit for what the federal government's doing. Like, come on now. Again, these are not wins on Mayor Steinberg's behalf. He needs to quit being narcissistic and understand that we have more than just him making these decisions. We have an entire community putting out outreach, wanting to put input in. We're being shut down. You guys seen it on Tuesday night's council meeting. Every time Angelique Ashby, every time Mai Vang, and every time Katie Valenzuela tried to talk, he got pissed off and shut them down. So, this is not okay. This isn't democracy for real. And then the last one is successfully pressed. Listen to the wording. Successfully pressed city staff to adopt a winter warming strategy that includes more flexible rules for opening warming shelters, hundreds of new motel vouchers, and 25 trailers at Cal Expo. I don't know. I'm going to read through these comments because, again, reading all of this to me is just frustrating. It's like, what have you done? Like, for real, like, we can talk all day long. I could talk about all the things that I've thought of putting in place or we've semi-put in place, but what is actually been done? We can say, actually, for us, we've done it. We've been the survival frontline workers. We've developed the medical teams in the camps. We've brought out the first sanitation. We've, made sure to make sure impacted voices. Like, we could go on and on. But the fact is like, what is this list showing? Physically, what do we have? We have Meadowview Shelter that's closed. Physically, we had Railroad, which is a complete disaster. Again, we're going to call in all these folks because the property owners are pissed about the city contract with that. And again, so it's like, anybody can say they're doing something, right on paper, but for real, what's going on? Sorry guys, my Wi-Fi is really yucky. So again, this is just, a lot of talk, no action always. And so, we're just going to continue doing what we do, but we are going to hold them accountable because that's the word right there, is accountability. What we can show for what we've done, and being accountable for our actions. I'm going to go ahead and read through these comments really quick. Sorry guys. What did we end off last time? Yes, I'm going to save this video. Hopefully it doesn't go away because being an activist, we know that our stuff disappears and we get retaliated on, which is amazing. Steinberg did nothing to end the practice of the downtown street team paying $20 for 4 hours of work, both cleaning up trash, and he claims to be pro-labor. So the downtown street team is, the idea is great to employ our unhoused, but again, giving people stipends of food cards or not really like money, that is not okay. Minimum wage at least needs to be paid when it comes down to this. There's a lot of labor things that are kind of yucky on that. Let's see. Well, it's not letting me. There it goes. What's going on with X and Alhambra Street? So they're building a shelter. It's going to be on Caltrans property, and that's why they continue to harass those folks. Those folks also were kind of a pain in the city's ass because they made sure that they had signs up that said city, I think it said eyes wide shut or eyes wide open or something like that. Right in front of their camp, because they want people to understand what's going on. That camp is monitored, again, has facilities. Again, they've managed to disperse folks. So the public health order, the CDC, we'll start with CDC. So the CDC on August 16th put out an order. It's for just specifically regarding homelessness. And what they're saying is that they should not move them. That when people get moved, they get dispersed from solutions. There's all kinds of stuff. I suggest people reading it. But that's basically a guideline that they're supposed to follow. The public health order straight up says do not cite, do not sweep, do not pick, do not remove, do not take people's vehicles, do not do all these things. And again, the city has completely failed that. We have a lot going on because we are doing the recall process, but we are also going back to the state court, which we do have a lawsuit, and we do have a ruling. So the ruling says that that the city of Sacramento, so the people that we sued within the city would be that are named plaintiffs would be the City of Sacramento, Chief Hahn, Darrell Steinberg. And then for the county, it is the County of Sacramento, Phil Cernan in his capacity as chair. We also sued Olivia, who is part of the Public Health Department, and then Scott Jones from the Sheriff's Department. And so, again, in his capacity on this, the public health order, the writ of mandate that we won, says that they are to follow the public health order. The public health order says do not cite, do not ticket, do not tag, do not remove vehicles, do not disperse folks from, the areas where they are, and again, all day long. So we will be going back to court for that. Like I said, our plate's pretty full right now because now we have the recall on top of everything else. But it's the recall, and then we have, again, the state court we're going back to for contempt, especially around what happened at X Street. But it's happening everywhere, so folks know. Railroad, Aherns, South Sacramento, all those areas were city property that have been swept recently. And so then, again, we will be going back to court, but we are going to go to federal court. We just won a lawsuit in Santa Cruz to stop the removal of San Lorenzo camp. And so we are going to file for a restraining order against the city to try to stop them completely from having any engagement with our unhoused. We know and we understand that if there's criminal behavior, like real criminal behavior, not people trying to survive, that the police obviously are going to go in for warrant checks, things like that. But at the same time, this constant harassment over nothing, it's over. We're done with it. And again, like I said, this list of stuff to me, if you read it, it's like, I'm going to toot my own horn for being part of a meeting. When it comes down to it, I could say the same thing. Like, hey, I was in your meeting about tiny homes. So, hey, I created tiny homes. No. It's time for some accountability. So thank you for going item by item on this. Steinberg continues to try and pat himself on the back. It's ridiculous. I can't believe this list when I first read it. So this list is when I was in the medical field and done criminal justice, we have the famous phrase CYA, which is cover your ass. Notice this came out the day after we requested the resignation. So this is his way of trying to get the community to be like, hey, look at me, look what I've done, I'm an amazing person. And we have those people that follow him like that. I have received hundreds of emails since we asked for the resignation. I've gotten a lot of hate mail, people telling me I'm a horrible person, that Steinberg's done more for homelessness, blah, blah, blah. And I have taken the time to break it down to some of these folks saying, hey, look, totally down to disagree, or to agree to disagree. However, did you know this, this, and this? And we've had quite a few people like change their tune real quick. Like, this needs to be made public. And so that's where we're going to continue when we do this campaign to work on bringing this real narrative forward, because that's what's important. The narrative of the people is what matters, not some BS behind, a desk. He keeps, I'm going to rewatch Take Notes. I'm willing to sit down with you, Monica, whenever, if you're still on here. This is, like I said, statewide. Sacramento, it's a lot, and it's tiring here dealing with just his stupid list here, but, like, statewide, we're dealing with this shit with him. He keeps framing things as if it's all his idea. He utterly fails to give credit to anyone who actually works for these services. Absolutely. And then they try to co-opt, too, just to let you guys know this. So, like, the city is trying to bring out basically what Sac Soup is. Like, well, we should bring out mills. We should bring out medical teams. We're like, dude, we've been doing this. And it's not that we want credit for it. Like, we want our unhoused folks taken care of now. Like, this shouldn't be here, we should throw, $5 bazillion into a pilot program. We're going to see what happens. No. It's already working. We've been doing this for a long time. Same thing with mental health. Like, mental health first. I'm just going to lift them up real quick because I'm sick and tired of the county and the city with this. They're like, we need to have a mental health response team. Something that goes out. Maybe we should get a van. Maybe we should do this. Mental health first has been doing this for over a year. They've been out in these camps. They've been out dealing with trauma from the police. They've been out stopping, mental health issues, de-escalating. And again, we're seeing this. And so it's like, why are we... They don't want to allow for the community to do anything because that means they've lost control. And again, we don't want the credit for it. We just want to see that our folks are taken care of appropriately, and not being treated in a way that somebody else would not be treated. We are neighbors. The way we look at it in the union is we're brothers and sisters. We all matter in this situation. Like, we have any dying on the streets when we have empty buildings, when we have, empty hotels. We're getting ready to auction off the lofts downtown because the county has this rule that you have to auction so many properties. Why are we auctioning that property? Why are we not making that into housing right now? For real. So, eyes wide shut. There you go. Thanks, Erica. They've been promising to build that lot on XW corridor for years. So again, yes, they're going to probably pop this up. Again, shelter, I'm not going to ever condemn shelter or like that situation, but that is not permanent. Shelter means we get up, we leave at 8 a.m., we check in at 8 p.m., we have to lug all of our shit. And so that's something that we need to look at. How hard is that for somebody? I mean, think about moving in and out of your house every single day. Like, that's how, let's put it that way. Like, and not just move out of your house because we know we have a lot of stuff in our houses, but like, think about everything that you would need to put on your back to make sure you survived comfortably. Sleeping bags, tents, food, toilet paper. The list goes on and on and on. They're not allowed to have carts. They get ticketed and cited for having carts, those granny carts you push for groceries. They get tickets for those. They get tickets for trailers on the back of their bike. I wouldn't get a trailer with having kids. Hey, but they do. There's just so many ridiculous things behind the anti-homelessness of this city, and it's time for us to break this narrative. It's gotten old. Richard Wake, I would argue that Chenier is the real mayor. Steinbergs, the real mayor. Wait, I would argue that Chenier is the real mayor. Steinberg is a tool. Recall Chenier too. His record in regard to Crocker Ranch is costing the city hundreds and thousands of dollars. Richard, reach out to me about what that exactly is. So yeah, there's a few of them. So Harris too has been like the anti-homeless, like he's a pain in the ass. But again, we're not limiting this to the recall, and it's not that we're not focusing on Chan, and we're not focusing on Chenier, and we're not focusing on Jennings, and these people that have been long-term in office. What we're doing is we're recalling Steinberg because of the capacity in which he has accountability for not only Sacramento and what happened, especially with the deaths, the long-term effects of what he's done, and then also the statewide effects, is why we are requesting his recall. We are also going to the Attorney General, and we are filing a report that they do a full investigation of everybody involved, including Chan and everybody. This would be city and county. We're saying leave no rock turned. We want accountability for what happened to our folks. But again, it's not just a news flash because it's happening right now. This has been ongoing. I have lost so many people that I work with. Again, 500 is like a rough estimate of from when mayor went into office to now. We lose at least 100 people a year. And there's no, like, I don't want to say media attention. There's media attention now because we're not going to shut up about it. And I don't want this community to shut up about it. At this point, people are disgusted. People that are normally not disgusted are disgusted. And so we need to keep that narrative. They are literally asking for volunteers from the community to work at the warming center while they take credit for the warming center. Yeah, they do. Again, any of us that are on the ground, we don't want credit. It isn't about credit at the end of the day. It's not even about the mayor patting himself on the back. It's the reality of what we've had and what we don't have. Again, and it's at the risk and off the backs of people that are dying on the streets, and we're not going to put up with it. So, yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of different things going on. And if you step outside of the last, he went into office 2017. So if you go before that, there's lots of crap around the Mental Health Act. A lot of shady business. Again, this is all stuff you guys can look up on Google. Like, I wasn't political before all this, until actually around the time he came into office is when I became political, in the political arena with the unhoused. So, again, you can look it up. There's some stuff when he was in Senate, that looks shady. Again, we don't want people filtering money off the backs of homeless people back into their own pockets, to their own agencies, to their own facilities. This is ridiculous. So, again, we just have to hold them all accountable. Everybody has their part in this, we've been calling for accountability for a long time, and now's our opportunity to say enough is enough. We're grabbing the accountability. We're not just asking for it. We're demanding it, and we're coming to the community for it. And so we're asking that if you have any capacity to help us with this recall, please reach out because we're going to need it. We need to start, our very first step in this is to get proponents for this. We need at least 10 people that are within the city limits to sign that they support this recall. And then we have to write a 200-word letter of intent. So we're going to be doing that. And then we figured it out. It's like 28,000 signatures, but we're going to say 30 first to make sure that everything's good. And so it's going to be a lot of work, but we have a lot of people ready to do this. The people on the streets are ready to do this. They're done. I mean, they're ready to even leave their tents to walk and get this recall done. We're at the point where if we don't do something, people are going to continue to die. The businesses are going to continue. I mean, we all matter in the situation. Again, I'm going to say that. People get pissed off when I say that. But hey, guess what? The businesses, they have a right to complain. When you open a business and you're trying to provide for your family and you can't because the streets are lined with tents and people don't want to come in, they have a right to be upset. Our residents have a right to be upset when they can't go to a park with their children because there's needles or whatever. We have a right to be upset because there's no resources for the housing. We all matter in this situation, and so we need to pull that and make sure that that's very clear. I'm not here to be against, the PBIDs. I'm not here to be against individuals. I'm here to get accountability and address the situation of homelessness, not the unhoused, of homelessness, and getting somebody in place that will help us with solutions versus the shit that we've been going through. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, but if not, I'm going to jump off here. I got lots of stuff to do today. But I wanted to make sure the community is engaged. We will be holding town halls. I think it's important that the media, it's important for the media to hear it, but at the end of the day, the people that are most important are the people that are on the ground, our community. So again, media reports are one thing, but if you have local media that you would rather have us talk to, we would rather give those stories first to our local folks. This has been all about grassroots from the beginning, and we're going to keep it that way. So does anybody have any questions? I know that there's not that many folks still on here, but, so if you guys want to also help out, I have a research committee that has been started. I'll have you reach out to, it's Patrick Wright on my, Facebook, and, we can add you to that email chain. We do need to get going on the research because we don't have a lot of time to get these signatures, but I know we can do it. And you'll sign, Richard. Okay. I'm going to give you the attorney's email so we can, organize that with the attorney. I'm strongly considering throwing my hat in the ring. You should. We need folks that understand the situation. It's been a great turn to see that Katie's in office and Mai Vang's in office. They're powerhouses. They're going to do something. As you can see, they're not going to stand up to be bullied. Our meeting on Tuesday was about bringing community engagement in, and it was shut down by the mayor. I don't know if you guys seen that, but it was really disgusting to watch him get all excited when someone voted for him. Shit on you attitude, when people were saying things for Katie and my proposals. And so again, we got to remember, it's we the people. We the people elect these people. We the people have the power to recall these people. And so it is time to recall at least one of the bad apples. I mean, like I said, hopefully the investigation will, pull the other ones. But we'll see. I would like to sign for the recall. All right, Warren, we will, as soon as we get the petitions up, we're going to need folks to be out distributing or collecting signatures. So it's going to be important. We're going to figure it out. So, again, I'm going to jump off here. I got kids to deal with at the moment and some other stuff to deal with. So I'll talk to you guys soon, and I appreciate all of you guys. Let's get this done. We deserve better. This community deserves better. Appreciate you guys.